My husband ghosted me without a word. My husband and I have been homeless for about a year after he was fired from his job. We had been alternating between staying in cheap motels and sometimes the streets if things got really bad. Recently, however, I started working online and have been able to keep a roof over our heads. He hasn't worked in a year. So on Tuesday, when he said he had a job interview, I was excited. He walked since his truck broke down and was sold. He said he needed both phones for numbers, so I gave it to him without thinking about it. Especially since I could still get in touch with him with text now. After about an hour, he texted me and said he got the job. He just had to fill out paperwork and get his substance test and would only be a couple of hours. I was so excited. But then I saw 3 expenses on the bank card in the county over and knew something wasn't right. Those couple of hours turned into that night, as well as the morning. He not only wasn't answering my texts or calls, but he blocked me completely. He had both phones, both bank account cards, and my valid ID. Before I had a chance to cancel the cards because it was my money on there, he had pretty much wiped out the account. I still had a few days left at the motel, so I called around. My dog, cat, and I are safe at the moment, and I open new bank accounts but have to wait on the cards to arrive. But we can't stay here forever. I'm hoping the card arrives soon and I can get my ID done so we can get back into a motel, which is the only option at the moment until I can build up enough money for rent deposit and find a cheap apartment or house. I do have a paycheck coming Thursday, though I'm not sure what to do after Monday when I can no longer stay where I am. As far as I know, my husband is with another woman. He contacted his brother just long enough to say he was safe but wouldn't give an answer why. We've been married for 9 years but started dating back in 1988. We weren't arguing. And I thought everything was fine. Not a word, and I'm just devastated. I just can't fathom why he just left me and our pets like that with no access to money and tried to clean it completely out, a vehicle, or even a live phone. He knew that most likely we would be out on the streets, but luckily, we did find a temporary haven for a few days.
People who moved countries and left their old lives behind, why? 18 years ago, I came to know that my son wasn't mine. He was 3 when I found out my wife cheated on me with my best friend. I was devastated. Needless to say, we got divorced, and my ex didn't suffer any consequences. The court doesn't care if the kid is your biological child or not. You have to pay child support. My ex was vindictive, so she intentionally quit her job so that she could get more money. After 6 months of this, I reached my breaking point. At that time, a work friend of mine joked that I should just leave this country. That's when it hit me. I am not going to spend the next 15 years of my life caring for the bad decisions my ex made. I started to plan my exit. I took out all the money from my bank account. I quit my job and sold my car. I also sold some of my belongings. I never said a word to anyone except for my mom. She knows where I am and I am 100% sure she won't snitch. The last thing I said to my ex was I would rather die than pay a single penny to you via text. From there I boarded my flight and went to a country further away where they cannot find me. I came to the new country by plane and from there I journeyed by road to a nearby country. It is a third world country with a lot of greeneries. It wasn't that hard because I bribed the border guards and they let me into the country. From there, I started to teach English in a primary school in a village. I was mostly traveling every 6 months because staying in one place at that time could be dangerous. I changed my name and also all my documents. There were some official documents that I couldn't because they asked for your passport number. I still work as a teacher, but on the side, I have a small side business. I am married to the most amazing and kind woman I have ever met and together we have 2 daughters. Now aside from my mom, my wife also knows about my past life and she has been really supportive of me. The people in this country have accepted me as their own. They always come forward to help us. This country might be behind in many things but I do not have any lacking. I do not live a lavish life here but I can get whatever I want if I spend money. Literally there is a guy for everything. Edit, my ex-wife just found me through this post. F my life. My stepdaughter stole from my son and my wife lied to the police about it. 2 days ago my son Jay came to my job upset and crying. He told me my stepdaughter Kay came home with a ton of new purchases, and when he checked his room the money he had been saving was gone. Kay doesn't have a job, but when she does have money, she spends it like it'll burn a hole in her pocket if it stays there. My boss let me go home early and I went home to ask Kay who took her shopping. Kay told me she used her own money. I told her to tell me the truth and she told me to mind my own business. Jay has been working at Papa Murphy's and has been saving it. He was saving to surprise the dad of his friend who passed away for his first birthday without him. His friends had given him money to load onto his car to pay at the pump. It's this weekend for 2 days and they were going to treat dad. Most kids would be saving for their first car or cool clothes, but he wanted to just be there for his friend's dad. Instead of arguing back and forth with Kay, I checked the camera. We have to check on the dogs. It only caught her legs, but it was Kay going into Jay's room. The rule in my house is we don't go into each other's room. It's a mutual respect of privacy. I told Kay she was caught and that she needed to get everything to return it all. Kay started throwing every excuse I had it saved for months. How do you know it was me? Someone must have broken in. Her mom came home and she burst into tears, saying we were ganging up on her. I showed my wife the video and what happened. Kay ended up saying, why does he get to have all the money anyway? He worked his butt off for it. I told my wife she needed to make Kay return everything and she said no, that it would be embarrassing to return it all and that when Kay got a job she would repay Jay. I said it'll be more embarrassing when she gets arrested for stealing $400. We argued and I tell my wife Kay broke a non-negotiable rule as well as the law by stealing. She is 19, she doesn't pay rent and needs to leave. My wife says if you kick her out I'm going to. So I asked if she was willing to replace the money stolen, force Kay to return, or she could give me her half of the rent early. No, was all I got as a response. They packed a few bags and left. I was not going to rip the bags of stuff out of her hands. I don't think getting physical would have been the smartest thing to do. Also, I do not have extra money for him to still go. I can only replace the small amount back to his friends and it's not enough to make the trip. He went to bed without eating and was crushed. This morning, I called the police. The solution was that the officer would call my wife to bring Kay to the station to talk or she could return the items and pay back Jay, sort of a scare tactic because I was told it is a civil matter. My wife straight up effing lied to the officer and said she gave the money to Kay. Since I don't have actual proof of Jay's money, no proof other than her walking into his room, nothing can be done. I'm livid. I literally watched Jay get his heart broken at the police station. Through tears he said, how could they do this to me, what was this all for, I just wanted to see my friend's dad. Jay is my son from a previous relationship. I had to lecture him on not keeping large amounts of cash in his room, but he didn't think it would get stolen. My wife and Kay have support, staying with family, this won't affect them. This weekend my wife showed back up with a sheriff's escort. She came armed with receipts showing that she bought the furniture in our rental and that is all she needed to take everything. I tried explaining I gave her cash for some of the items, but guess what? Just like with Jay, cash doesn't have a trail. Her family helped her move everything in under an hour. With how quick this all happened, the cynic in me thinks my wife had this planned well before what happened. My wife contacted the landlord and paid a lot of money to break the lease. Almost double the money that Kay stole, but of course she didn't offer to repay Jay after everyone left and my landlord called. I had a mini breakdown. Everything was moving faster than I could comprehend and honestly felt like I was watching a movie. Jay came up to me and said, I'm so sorry you lost everything because of me, and it's not a big deal, I'll tell mom it's okay that Kay needed it more than me, that's all I needed to snap out of it. I told him he is my everything, not her, not the house, not the furniture, not the food that was in the fridge. Yes, super cheesy, but there is nothing my wife can do, say, or give me to make me overlook or be okay with what they did to him. I asked him, are you going to feel comfortable around them? What about when you're gone? I don't want you to have to worry about what will she steal next. Kay is not going to get away with this. My wife made a choice when the police officer asked her about Kay. She chose to defend and protect Kay just like I am choosing to protect Jay. If Jay isn't comfortable, I'm not comfortable. And I told him that. The people in my life have been slamming me online saying things like I'm uncomfortable that he would choose his son over his wife and his son is almost an adult, it's time to grow up and be a man. It doesn't matter what age I am, I will always protect Jay. I blocked everyone after that. I cannot afford the full rent, so luckily my landlord has agreed to let us leave by the 1st. The only place we have to go to is my mom's, who lives across the state. This means I have to pull Jay out of his last year of high school and transfer him. I have to sell what little we have left here, and that might include selling Jay's beater car, but the silver lining is Jay and I can transfer locations for work. My mother has always been more of a mother to Jay than my wife. Moms are healing at any age. I'm not saying I'm not devastated, that I'm not suffering emotional whiplash, and I'm not saying the things that are being said about me in real life aren't affecting me, because it is. But my son needs me. He is still grieving his friend, missing his senior year with his friends, and I'm not the kind of parent to say because I said so or we are moving and you don't get a choice or opinion on it. That isn't me. But really, I don't know what to do next. Around 8 a.m. I started receiving a ton of texts from my stepdaughter. I thought it was an emergency, that someone had died, or something serious, because I can't recall the last time she was awake before noon. She was telling me that she had a package that was delivered today to the house. She asked me to contact the landlord to pick it up because when she tried, the landlord wouldn't give it to her. She wanted me to help her get a package that she stole my credit card to buy. Today was my last day at my job before I transferred 6 hours away to crash on my mom's couch because Kay stole from my son and I, leading to me divorcing her mom. Text after text damn near demanding I do it right away. After work I went and got it. It had my name on it. She put it in my name to avoid it getting flagged by my credit card company. It was a partial order from when she went on a shopping spree, the items had been back ordered. It was a box of makeup from Sephora. I opened it, again, it was in my name. It was over $200 for 4 little things. There were also a ton of little sample products. I took a picture of it and sent it to her. She started thanking me and how I saved her night out because she ran out of foundation. She was talking to me like I was her buddy, all excited. My jaw literally dropped at the audacity she had. She ruined my son's senior year and she thought I was going to help her so she could go out tonight with her friends. She didn't respond to my son when he tried begging for his money back but had the nerve to ask me to help her. I took it to Sephora to get a refund, but because the card that was used to purchase it was frozen I couldn't get cash. The girl working said she could return the store credit to Kay's account. Absolutely no, I think the F not. So I took her package to an organization that helps women get ready for job interviews so they can get back on their feet. I texted her that they said thank you and that it would really make a difference since donations were low. Kay lost her mind. Cursing me out for giving away her stuff, how she was going to call the police if I didn't get it back within an hour, saying she was going to go get it back. What kind of punk tries to get a donation back from the needy? I ruined her night because now she doesn't have any foundation makeup, and how dare I think it's okay to do this to her. The last and only text response I gave was I would probably avoid the police right now, especially since mommy is out of town for work, who would bail you out? I got her package that I didn't even know about, which ended up adding more fuel to my case. Here's how you can learn to tailor a shirt to fit properly. I got sick of trying to find shirts that fit properly. So I decided to learn how to tailor, and it was the best decision I've ever made. Despite what you might think, learning how to tailor and alter your own shirts is actually incredibly easy, and it's something you can learn how to do in a weekend. I got sick of watching videos made by old women that were 20 minutes long when they could have been 3. I started out because I had to start dressing nicer for a new job, so I filled my closet with dress shirts. They fit great in my shoulders and my chest, but terribly in my waist. I started getting them tailored, but it was expensive. I paid attention to what the woman was doing when she was pinning it up, and I realized that she was just following along the line. Not to downplay her skills or anything, but surely I could do that, and so can you. But as a heads up, you're gonna mess up your first few shirts, so practice on a cheap 1 or 3. These are the basic settings you need to learn in order to alter a basic t-shirt or a dress shirt, and it takes 5 minutes to learn. Sewing machines can do a ton of things, but when you just want to look better in your clothes, you can ignore about 90% of the settings. You only need to know a handful of settings, and any machine made in the last 100 years will get the job done. The only difference between a sewing machine you can pick up on Amazon and one that they used back during World War II is nothing at all actually. I tell people all the time to go check an estate sale or a garage sale before they pick one up on Amazon, because you can most likely find one for $30 or less. I use one that was my mom's, and to be honest I probably always will. Measuring a t-shirt. What's funny about measuring is it's the hardest part of the entire process, only because it can be time consuming. What's even funnier is once you get one style of shirt, you can go back and get the same one only in a different color and already have the measurements of how you're going to alter it. For measuring, the 2 things you need are a measuring tape and some pins to try on your shirt and see if you like the fit. There's 2 ways about going about it too. You can measure it, pin it, and try it on with the pins in. Yes, you will probably stab yourself, and if you like it, take it off and sew it up. The second way is time consuming, but you pin it, try it on, and if you like it, take the pins out so you don't stab yourself, and then put them back in before you sew. I use both methods, depending on how lazy I'm feeling. Sewing a t-shirt, this is the easier part. And once you get it down, you will just fly through your shirts. You put the garment under the machine, and just sew. You remember when you were a kid and you had to cut out a dotted line shape? It's exactly like that, so saying that you can't tailor your own clothes is like saying kids can do something that you can't. The straight stitch, this is one of 2 stitches that you need to learn, and it's easy. Remember, a sewing machine can do a lot of different things, but for tailoring our own clothes all we care about are 2 stitches. The straight stitch is what's going to create a new seam on our garment, and yes, it's going to be just as strong as the original. What I will usually do is sew in an hourglass shape so that it's more athletic fitting. The zigzag stitch, this is the second stitch that you need to learn, and it's just as easy as the first. What the zigzag stitch does, it locks in our new seam and prevents it from fraying in the washing machine. You can skip this step on some garments like technical fibers, but cotton ones are a no-no. Definitely do this stitch so that it doesn't leave little fibers all over on the inside of your washing machine. And that's it, that's literally it. You can do t-shirts, dress shirts, chinos, dress pants, everything. My go-to is to let everyone get caught up in trends and styles, while I tell people to wear whatever they want and tailor it to fit them like a glove. I shop at Target and, that's about it. I buy $9 shirts and make them look fantastic.
My narcissistic husband refuses to attend doctor appointments with me even though I'm pregnant. Now I'm not telling him the gender of our baby because he canceled for some fish and chips with a friend. My husband and I are expecting our first baby and we're excited. We've made so many preparations already in terms of the nursing room, buying the necessities, etc. Even though my husband has been a big help with that, he barely attends any doctor appointments with me and his excuses aren't even valid. I'd understand if he was working overtime, but no. He's willing to miss the appointments over soccer or a drink or board game with friends. I've told him that I want him there, not only for support, but because he is also the child's father. But his response is always, "I'm not the one carrying the baby, why do I have to go see the doctor with you?" I was shocked. We got into a big fight over this. I yelled that he still had to make an effort, and him not carrying the baby didn't mean anything because it's just a principle of him putting a beer over his baby. He said I was being unfair and unreasonable because I never let him do stuff. Which isn't true. He can do whatever he wants as long as he shows up to these appointments. He slept on the couch that night, reluctantly of course, because he said he deserved the bed over me since he's the one working all the time. I had to lock myself in the room to get him to sleep on the couch. We didn't talk for a while because we both refused to apologize. I was in the right in all this, so I had nothing to apologize for. But last week was my final straw. He was supposed to come with me for the baby's gender reveal appointment, but he chose to not come last minute because his friend invited him to a fish and chips meal. I told him he needed to start putting more effort into this baby, and he went back to saying this is what he meant when I said I don't let him have fun. All he wants is to have a meal with a friend over a beer, and I'm throwing a fuss. I told him I had a right to do that because I was close to pushing out his baby that I had been growing in my body for months. He hung up the call by saying I was grossing him out with all that talk. He didn't want to picture anything that I said, and I was making him lose his appetite. I was pissed at him, but there was nothing I could do about it because I had no idea where he was. I just called my mom to take me, and she did. Later that day, he texted asking me to tell him if we were having a boy or girl. I refused to tell him because he would know if he had come. He kept spam calling me, but I hung up each time. He came home fuming, demanding I tell him the results, but I refused and bluntly told him, Since he refused to attend the appointment, then he got no results until after the baby's born and said I was willing to die on that hill. He went off calling me spiteful and immature for doing this and punishing him. He said he's the father and has the right to know. I said he wasn't acting like a father when he missed the appointment, and he called me dramatic. I was firm on not telling him the results, and he's been fuming about it. He told his family and they're now pressuring me to stop playing mind games with him and tell him, but I declined. I can't look at my husband anymore without feeling hurt.
My homophobic mom called me after years of no contact when she found out I was getting married. She only helped plan and pay for my entire wedding so she could ruin it. I'm gay and have been with my husband for 10 years, but getting together was a struggle all on its own, since we had to fight a lot to be together. Our families didn't support us, so we had no support from them, and we worked in a very homophobic environment where gay was an insult. Eventually, my husband got promoted and proposed to me. We planned a dream wedding and an extravagant party. It took more than 1 year of intense planning, and everyone was talking about our wedding. All the preparations were being posted online and people were congratulating us all the time. So, my mom heard about the wedding and reached out for the first time in almost a decade. She said she was incredibly sorry for how she treated me, that she knew better nowadays, and asked if she could be part of this important event in his life. She even begged him to let her pay for the whole thing as a very big apology. I was over the moon because this meant my parents finally accepted me. It looked like everything was falling in place. When I told my fiancé at the time, he was concerned about her sudden generosity, but let it go when he saw how important this was to me. I was so happy to have my mom back in my life. Over the next year, my mom made the wedding her top priority in life. She intermediated every transaction, contacted the suppliers back and forth, and basically organized the whole thing, plus signed all the checks. Everyone was amused that things were going so well. 10 days before the big day, I got a call from one of the suppliers saying there was an issue with the repayment. I asked what repayment, and he said, the partial repayment on the cancellation. I called my mom with no luck, then my fiancé, and he immediately reached out to all the suppliers. Turns out, she canceled the entire wedding, including the very exclusive, almost a year reservation venue. She took matters into her own hands to make sure she could sneakily cancel and we would only find out on the wedding day. She spent thousands just so she could undo it at the last minute and make sure the wedding wasn't happening. I just sobbed all night and my fiancé tried to calm me down, but I felt so betrayed by my mom. She went this far just to destroy my happiness.